Oh hey, what's up? Working hard or hardly working? Hardly working today. We just did a dining room of crown molding and we're waiting for the caulking to dry before we can paint it. So we're gonna give that a couple of hours. But I thought, you know what the heck, let's go outside and show you guys how to kerf a board. If you don't know what that is, let's go outside and check it out. So here's our little setup for kerfing a board. What we use is a Sharpie, a speed square, and this little setup that you see right here. So this is a pretty simple process, and I'll explain to you what kerfing a board is for trim carpenters. Basically what it is we're gonna make a series of cuts all along the back of this 1x6 MDF. This is 3/4 inch thick by 5.5, and we're gonna make a series of cuts that are 3/4 of an inch from one another. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna allow this MDF to get a really good bend to it so we can curve it around an arched wall. This is just an example today. We're not doing anything like this at this house, but we've got some time to kill. So here's how I do it. What you want to do is get your circular saw calibrated. This is a rigid, and the fence on this, from this fence to the blade, is 1.5 inches, but that's too big for the kerf. I need it to be 3/4. So this little divot right here where this goes in, that's the run of the blade. That's exactly where the blade cuts. So you can follow those lines. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get on that with just using the 7 here. You can use any number. I just don't like to use the end of the tape measure. I feel that this is more accurate. So right on that 7, and then I'll go over 3/4 and I'll make a line right there. It just needs to be 3/4 from that line. You can see right there. So what that's going to do, that's going to allow me to line up that Sharpie line with the next cut. And that line doesn't have to be pretty. Obviously you can see it's not perfectly straight. It's just a little line so you can know where to make the next cut. So before I make the first cut on this piece of MDF, what you got to do with your circular saw is set the depth. And I'll come around here to show you how I do that. There's this little blade guard. You want to lift that up, and you can see that's going to cut straight through the piece. We don't want that. We want to go about halfway through with that depth on that blade. So I'm just going to eyeball it and call it about halfway right there. Let me see how that looks from this side. Yeah, that looks pretty good actually right there. So I'll lock the saw down. I'll make sure that that's locked in place. Now my saw is calibrated and I'm ready to make the first pass of the circular saw. So here's what I'm gonna do when I get started. I'm gonna take this speed square in my left hand with the fence of the speed square away from me. That way I can grab onto it and slide it like an adjustable fence. And this circular saw, the fence on the left side of the circular saw, is gonna ride against that. So what I'll do is I'll get that Sharpie line lined up with the edge of the material, and then I will make the first pass. So with that first cut, now it's just a repetition of lining up the Sharpie line with the previous cut, and I'll do that the whole way down. And I can already feel the flexing over here, but it won't be until I get the full board curved that we'll be able to actually bend it. If I tried to bend it right now, it would just snap right here at the weakest link, right here where it's, as a whole board, this is the weakest link. So I just thought I'd mention that. But this side over here is really flexible. And you can see this part that I already did that's hanging off. I don't want to bounce it around too much, but it's really bendy right now. All right, so that's it. This is the kerf that we did, and you can see just how flexible it is. And we will break this board. I'm gonna push it to its limits, but before I break it and push it to its limit, if we wanted to get some more bend out of it, what we could do is we could set the depth of these cuts a little bit deeper, but you don't want to go too deep because you could end up breaking the board. That right there is a good amount to keep the wood strong and together, or in this case the MDF. So MDF, if you ever worked with it, you know already that it's already flexible before you do this. But I've got a piece that's the same exact size over here. And I'll show you what it looks like with the kerf versus without the kerf. So here's without. I'll set this one down and I'll try to bend this. It bends all right. And we're gonna push this to its limit, but it bends pretty good. But it's gonna break. Now watch how much I can get this thing bent. Pretty cool. It bends a lot more, but it's always going to break at that weakest link. Whatever it was, the weakest link was right there at that cut. Maybe it was a little bit skinnier than the other ones, but we've still got this piece. You can see how it keeps breaking. You can see how you could get that to, and it keeps breaking. You can see. So yeah, in all seriousness, that was pretty funny, but in all seriousness, this is a really cool method to get around curved walls and curved architectural drywall. And it really works. We've used it before. Now, if the wall is too curved, you're gonna need to go to the rubber, the flexible millwork route. Yeah, it's a really cool method. We've used it on baseboard before, where we take the same method and we just score the back of the baseboard before you get to the top, so you don't see it in that top profile, and it works great. So anyways, hope you learned something from this video about kerfing. It's a really cool method, and I will see y'all next time.